Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, and this is Taking Care of Business. Joining me today is Duane Bratt, who is a political science professor at the Mount Royal University in Calgary. Thanks, Duane, for joining us today.
You're welcome, Mario.
Well, lots of big news here this week in the political front. Erin O'Toole steps down or will be stepping down as leader of the Federal Conservative Party. Does this come as any surprise at all?
I think the timing was, and it seemed to happen very quickly. You get a letter calling for a caucus vote on a Monday, the caucus votes on Wednesday, and he is gone. So in the span of less than 48 hours. But if you step back a bit, Erin O'Toole had been a dead man walking since the election campaign. And so it's not a surprise that he was pushed out. I mean, even between September and Wednesday, there were petitions calling for him to resign. There were caucus members calling for him to resign. And this was occurring for a number of reasons. I think one is he lost the election. You lose an election, there are consequences to that. Party leaders federally don't get second opportunities like they used to. Robert Stanfield lost 3 elections. John Turner lost 2. Stephen Harper lost his first election and won the second one, but not now. The second is the Conservatives are a tough group to govern. There's a lot of internal cleavages within the Conservative Party based on geography, based on pragmatism versus ideologic rigidity, between progressive conservatives and more right-wing conservatives, between social conservatives and economic conservatives. And it's a tough group to manage. And then finally, O'Toole didn't help himself by being a chameleon, by being a flip-flopper. He ran as a moderate in 2017. Then he ran as a true blue conservative in the leadership race in 2020. Then he tacked back to the center in the election campaign. And he's just moved back and forth, back and forth. What does Erin O'Toole stand for? What principles does he have? You know, even this week when he was trying to save his job, he was going to caucus. Well, I can change my policies. Just tell me what you want. And I think that was a problem. So I think it was those 3 interrelated factors that drove O'Toole down. The timing just happened to be this week. It could have been a month from now. It could have been 2 months ago.
Yeah. So let's look forward. Who do you think is going to run in this leadership race that will be upcoming?
I think the clear front runner already is Pierre Poilievre. He had kicked the idea around about running in 2020. He chose not to. But now his reputation is even stronger. He is seen as a strong critic of the Liberal government on fiscal issues. He's the finance critic. He is very popular amongst the base. He gets massive views of the videos he puts out on inflation and other matters. He's a Calgarian who represents an Ottawa riding with a French name, who's bilingual. You know, he served as a cabinet minister with Harper. So he's got a lot of experience. I think there's a lot of baggage with Poilievre as well, that while the base loves him, is he's someone who can appeal to a wider swath of Canadians, of undecided Canadians, of Canadians in the middle. We'll have to see about that. Beyond him, maybe Michelle Rempel-Garner out of Calgary. So, you know, there are some people. I don't think Peter MacKay is going to go back. I don't think Rona Ambrose or Jean Charest. So look at those who weren't, maybe Leslyn Lewis, who ran as an unknown in 2020. Now she's got a seat in the legislature or in the House of Commons. So maybe Leslyn Lewis representing the social conservative wing. There may be others, but if you think about the 2017 race, there was like 13 people that ran. There were a lot of former cabinet ministers. By the time of 2020, it was down to 4 people. And so is it a small race? Is it a large race? These are things we don't know. Will it solely be amongst caucus members, or will there be outsiders?
What about Brad Wall?
Everybody loves Brad Wall. They throw his name around. How's his French? You know, he's been retired as he was very popular premier. Conservatives still love him, but if you're not bilingual, that's a disqualifying thing right off the bat.
So, including Pierre P. in the conversation, whether it's him or whether it's somebody else, when the next election rolls around and it's either the current Prime Minister Trudeau or perhaps Chrystia Freeland, the Conservative have a shot to knock them off, knock the Liberals out?
It really depends. I mean, if Trudeau sticks around for another election, there is Trudeau fatigue. He lost the popular vote the last two elections. I think there were people willing to vote Conservative, but they weren't particularly happy with the leadership of either Scheer or O'Toole.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't, then do the Liberals get an opportunity of refreshing? Whether it is a Chrystia Freeland, whether it is a Mark Carney, we could have a very different dynamic by the next federal election. Bear in mind, it's only been 5 months, 6 months the last election. The Conservatives aren't going to be ready for another 6 or 7 months. So a year and a half, a lot can happen as we start to try to distance ourselves from COVID.
And a lot can happen in the next few weeks here provincially. When you look at Jason Kenney and his...
there's a lot of parallels between what O'Toole is facing and what Jason Kenney is facing. But I look at some of the big differences. O'Toole lost an election, Kenney won an election, and that's something he can tie his people to.
Yeah.
The other is there is a set of rules through the Reform Act that governed a non-confidence vote in caucus, secret ballots, notice of motion, all of those. None of that apply here. There is a leadership race review on April 9th, but it's party members, not the caucus.
Yeah.
The party executive determines the rules around that. There are allegations the party executive is controlled by Jason Kenney. Erin O'Toole couldn't control the process. Jason Kenney looks like he's controlling the process here. But Kenney's also in trouble with this Coutts blockade. And just as an illustration of that, last Thursday in a press conference, when he was asked about when he was going to get rid of Alberta's restrictions for COVID, he said mid-March, around St. Patrick's Day. On Tuesday of this week, it was sometime in late February. On Wednesday, he put out a video saying within days. And that seems, the science can't change within a week like that. What can change is the political dynamic. And hospitalizations are still 1,500, 1,600, and you're about to drop restrictions. That looks like you're acceding to the demands of an illegal blockade of the border.
So what would that do for him if he goes through, like, as all the signals indicate that he will, and lift everything? Like, who is that going to appeal to within his?
I mean, it could very well appeal to the demonstrators down in southern Alberta. It may appeal to parts of the rural caucus. Can he bring them back on side? I think that's part of his calculation. But if hospitalizations don't start to drop soon, and if God forbid we hit a sixth wave come, in May, he may survive the leadership review. But what does that do setting up the 2023 election? Does it pit urban Edmonton, urban Calgary versus rural Alberta? And has he already lost parts of rural Alberta because of the measures he's taken over the last 2 years? What if there's more political violence or threats of illegal activity? Do they believe that that's all you need to do to shift public policy? So we're in a very dangerous time here in Alberta.
All right. Well, it's going to be an interesting few days coming up and a few weeks. So thanks, Duane, for joining us today.
Okay. You're welcome, Maria. All
right. That was Duane Bratt, political science professor at Mount Royal University in Calgary. I'm Mario Toneguzzi. This has been Taking Care of Business. Thanks for joining us today.